Hill, interviewing Patrick Henry Jolly at Red Hill, Virginia on July 4th, 2012. This is for USWGO Alternative News. We are Change North Carolina, and also we are Change chapters out there in America. So, what do you personally think about Patrick Henry?
Oh, Patrick Henry, I think, is one of our greatest founding fathers, Brian. I think that he had the foresight, and he had the just the foresight to see some of the problems that we're experiencing today. A federal government that is kind of feeling that they have more power than they actually have. I think sometimes our government officials need to be reminded that it's we the people. You know, the government is made up of us. And when it comes to Patrick Henry, I think that he was a brilliant man. He was somebody who I firmly believe, and he believes, that God put him in this place for the particular reason that Patrick Henry was here. And so I think that he knew what his place was, and he did it.
What does Patrick Henry think about states' rights?
Patrick Henry was a huge states' rights advocate. As a matter of fact, something that not a lot of people know is, as you understand, the preamble of the Constitution says, "We the people." When Patrick Henry was a delegate from the state of Virginia as part of the ratifying convention in 1788, he actually had suggested, I don't know if he actually formally suggested it or had the idea, that instead of we the people, it ought to be we the states. He was very much a states' rights advocate. He understood that we lived under a federal government. There was a place for the federal government, but we were a states' rights-based nation.
Yeah, because from what I understand, voting is by the states, whereas each state you have to get on the ballot in order to.
That is absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct.
So, do you think our civil liberties, the Bill of Rights, and states' rights are being threatened?
I think to a certain extent, yes. I think that, as I said earlier, I think sometimes the federal government believes that they are they're above the law to a certain extent. Whether it's intentional or unintentional, I think that they are our liberties are being threatened, and I think it's something that we as American citizens need to be aware of. Do I think that we're ready for another revolution? No, I don't. And Patrick Henry was cautious against that as well. He cautioned against going into another revolution. But it's something that we need to be aware of, and we as American citizens need to keep that in mind when we get involved in grassroots efforts, or when we make the decision on who we're going to vote for when we go to the polls.
What do you think about the Constitution and Bill of Rights?
Well, Patrick Henry was very much against the Constitution as it was originally written. When it was originally written, remember, it had no Bill of Rights. There was no 10 amendments that were associated with it. So when he had it, all it was us giving power to the federal government, to this central government. There was nothing about individual rights. So he was very much against the original document. When he argued at the Virginia Ratifying Convention in, I believe, 1788, he spoke extensively for hours and hours at a time against it, insisting that if it was going to go through, that there needed to be a section that was based on Virginia's Bill of Rights, which he helped author. So that was when it was kind of informally decided that if the Constitution was ratified by Virginia, it would be on the condition that there would be a Bill of Rights added to it.
So Patrick Henry was the founder of the Bill of Rights.
Well, that's an awful generous term. I don't know if I would consider him the founder of the Bill of Rights, but he was definitely an early champion. He insisted. He did help write Virginia's Bill of Rights for Virginia's Constitution, but I had to say that he was the founder. That's giving him an awful lot of credit, but it's probably safe to say that if it wasn't for for his actions and for his words speaking out against the Constitution and insisting on a Bill of Rights, it is quite possible that we would not have it. So maybe founder, maybe not, but very important in us obtaining the Bill of Rights.
Why don't some of the public schools teach about the Constitution and about Patrick Henry?
Well, in regards to Patrick Henry, I think that a lot of times public schools forget our founding fathers. Patrick Henry was, as I mentioned earlier, an amazing attribute. He was an amazing part of of the foundation of this nation. And I think schools are slowly just kind of weeding out teaching of the founding fathers, the founding principles that this nation was built upon. Certainly the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. They might go over it, but I think that people more and more are accepting that the Supreme Court or our government officials will figure it out for themselves. It's not for us to figure out. It's kind of like the early days of Christianity, when Catholicism was more of a tyranny almost, not at all like it is today. And they kept the Bible out of the hands of the common people and said, no, leave it to the professionals, leave it to the pastors to interpret it. And I think that that's what they're doing today with the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the principles of our founding fathers. They're taking them out of the hands of the individuals and saying, oh, we're the professionals, we'll take care of it, we'll interpret it.
How is Patrick Henry's speech relevant to today's society?
You know, I've been performing as Patrick Henry for about 12 or 13 years, and hardly a time goes by when I give the speech and somebody makes the comment that those words not just give me liberty or give me death, but the whole concept and the whole beliefs behind the liberty or death speech. They're so relevant because they speak of the desire and the passion for freedom and for liberty. And that's what our nation is founded upon, liberty and freedom. And so quite often people say that they wish that they had a Patrick Henry alive today that could speak about freedoms and fire up people and get people excited about the liberties and the freedoms. Again, do we need a revolution? No, we don't need a revolution. We've got a great system of government, a representative system of government. And Patrick Henry cautioned, I believe it was in his speech at Charlotte Courthouse right before he passed away, when he said something to the effect of, what do you do if you disagree with the government? And he cautioned against doing something violent, doing something rash, because he said, if you overthrow this government, if somebody overthrows this government, then we can say forever goodbye to a representative form of government. And that's what we want. That's what we love here in America, is a representative form of government. We put people into office who think, hopefully, as we do. We put people into government with the same beliefs, hopefully, as we have now. And I think that his philosophies, his beliefs, his ethics were something that could be admired even today. And in his speech, the relevance of his speech is very much alive today.
I've got one more question, and then we're
okay.
And it's a pretty good one. Is Patrick Henry for limited government or big government?
Patrick Henry, as we talked about earlier, is all about states' rights. He understood that there was a place for the federal government in the Union. But if I can simply answer your question, is he for big government or is he for limited government? To simply answer your question, he would be for limited government.
All right, thank you.
Yes, Brian.
Can
Thank
I
you.
ask you one question?
Yes, sir.
What do you think of the fact that certain groups now are trying to make the founding fathers look like terrorists and old men who are slave owners?
Well, some of them were old men,
Yeah.
and many of them were slave owners. I think that they need to go back and look at history. I think that all Americans, because we can't depend on certain groups to paint the pictures for us. We have to encourage young people, old people, anybody. The references are available, the resources are available for anybody to go to the library, go on the internet, whatever they want to do, and find out the beliefs of our founding fathers. You listen to some people, and they paint them just as you said. You know, old men who were slave owners. They were deists. Deist is a person who is a Christian. He believes in God, but he kind of almost believes that God put it all in motion and then sits back and just lets stuff happen. Okay. Now that may be the definition of a deist, and Thomas Jefferson was a classic example of somebody who was in that category. But you read some of the things that Thomas Jefferson said. He sounded pretty evangelical to me.
Yeah.
And if that was a deist back then, I could accept that. I can accept that. This country was founded by great men. Were they perfect? No, they weren't. Did they see the problems of slavery? Many of them did. Patrick Henry was a slave owner right here at Red Hill. When he passed away, there were 60 some odd slaves that were listed in his inventory at the time of his death. But he wrote and believed in his heart that slavery would one day be abolished. It wasn't the time right then to do it. There were other things that were going on. We were in the midst of the infancy of our nation. But he couldn't understand how this nation that was founded on the principles of Christ, those are his words, not mine, you know, he said that this nation is founded on the principles of Jesus Christ, or on the religion of Jesus Christ. I forget his exact words, but you can look those up. But he couldn't understand how a nation that was founded like that could support an institution of slavery. But at the time, it was something that was it was an accepted practice. We don't understand that living here in the 21st century when we look back on that. These men were brilliant men. They were great men, but they weren't perfect. And we can't paint them as perfect people. But we can paint them as people who believed in establishing this nation as a nation that's built on liberties and built on freedom for us 230, 40 years later. So for people who are being taught and told that the kids or that the founding fathers are people like you described, they just need to go out and search for themselves and find out what these guys were like. Many of them were great upstanding citizens, God-fearing men, and I can accept that.
Thank you.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Patrick Henry was the first governor of Virginia, correct?
Yes,
What states now did that represent at that time?
Oh boy, so you're going to test my memory now.
Okay.
Was
it like
up there on the flagpole?
Ohio was one?
Okay, we're going to get there.
West
There were
Virginia.
7 states. It was Virginia, West Virginia, Tennessee, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, I believe. I believe that was it. Illinois, maybe? That would have been 8. Oh, Virginia wouldn't have been in there because Virginia's current. So Illinois. Right, take Virginia out and Illinois.
Another question. What relationship is Patrick Henry to you?
Patrick Henry is my 5th great-grandfather. Actually, technically, he's both my 5th and my 6th great-grandfather. I descend from 2 of Patrick Henry's daughters, Martha and Elizabeth. And in the second generation of Martha Henry, the oldest, there was an intermarriage that occurred between first and second cousins. So Patrick Henry is both my 5th and 6th grandfather.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
We just talked to your wife and she said to tell you hello.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.